Now this is Luke chapter 11 verses 29 through to 32. As the crowds were increasing, he began to say, "This generation is a wicked generation. It seeks for a sign, and yet no sign will be given to it, but the sign of Jonah. For just as Jonah became a sign to the Ninevites, so will the Son of Man be to this generation. The Queen of the South will rise up with the men of this generation at the judgment and condemn them, because she came from the ends of the earth to hear the wisdom of Solomon. And behold, something greater than Solomon is here. The men of Nineveh will stand up with this generation at the judgment and condemn it, because they repented at the preaching of Jonah. And behold, something greater than Jonah is here." This is it's interesting, isn't it? So the crowds were increasing, and as they increased, the crowds, and Jesus says, "This generation is wicked, is a wicked generation." It's not the way to win friends and influence people, is it? It is a wicked generation, looking for a sign, but there's only one sign that will be given, and that will be the sign of Jonah, because Jonah was called, and he went into and he was thrown out by men from a ship into the sea, and he was eaten by a large fish. And in Jonah it says, "I sunk down to the depths of Sheol," which may have meant that he actually died in the belly of that fish. And eventually God commanded the fish, and he was vomited up onto the ground. And then he went as a sign to Nineveh, and the people of Nineveh repented. And that is the sign. That is the sign to that generation, that Jesus would be taken by men and he would be crucified. God had sent him, and he would be crucified, and we go into the heart of the earth. He would go down to Sheol. He would go to the place of the dead. And on the third day, God would command that he be raised from the dead. Just as he commanded the fish to vomit out Jonah, so God would command the earth, if you like, to give up the Lord Jesus, and he would be raised from the dead. And that would be the sign to this generation. And just as Jonah then went to Nineveh, so there is a second calling. And the second calling comes not to the Lord Jesus, because he went up to heaven and he sat down at the right hand of God, but the calling is to his disciples to go therefore into all the world and preach the gospel. And that is the sign. That is the sign that Jesus died. He was buried, and he rose again from the dead. That is the sign that we must believe to be saved. And Jesus said the people of Nineveh, they believed. The Queen of the South, the Queen of Sheba, came up to see Solomon. And they both at the last days will come to this generation when Jesus was speaking to. He said, "Why didn't you believe? Why didn't you believe? We just heard something. The people of Nineveh just saw this man who had been dead and is now alive come and preach the gospel, and they believed and they repented." The Queen of Sheba will said, "I just heard something about the wisdom of this man, and I had to come and find out for myself. And I heard the wisdom of this man." Why didn't you believe when you heard the precious words coming from the mouth of the Lord Jesus? And so that is the sign for each one of us, that we need to believe that Jesus died on the cross, that he was dead, that he was buried, and on the third day God raised him from the dead, and that he is alive, never to die again, and he is alive forevermore. If you will believe this, and if you will confess that Jesus is your Lord, that you're going to follow him with all your heart, you'll be saved. You'll be saved. Or at the last days, generations will rise up and say, why didn't you believe it? You had the opportunity. You heard the simple gospel, but you didn't believe. And they will condemn you. And you'll say, why didn't I believe? In that place, and you'll be taken to that place of regret, gnashing of teeth, weeping, darkness, or where the fire never goes out and where the worm never dies. Believe in the Lord Jesus Christ while you can.